Hey there everybody, and welcome back to the next video in this series where we are kind of wrapping up the application. And so again, we're creating a social/sharing app with user login completely free. So we're going to go ahead and jump in. So the app so far, we've created the login and create account page. Again, it doesn't require users to authenticate their email. Then we have created a general forum. Now, it is important to note that the forum that we created in the previous video, as well as this forum that we are essentially working on next, are public access. There's no restrictions. What does that mean? Any user can access anything. They don't know what they've posted specifically. It's just designed to be a general group where people can choose a name at random, post some information. So this is designed to be a less secure app, kind of general info sharing. Again, check out the link in the description if you want to learn more about actually securing the endpoints. But as it stands, anyone can see any information anyone posts, and anyone can update any information. And that's what we're covering in this video. But what if you want to make something slightly more complex? Well, that's what we're here to cover now. So just to show you in the application that I've already kind of walked through previously, I want you to see what this looks like here. So we have this page where you want to add some coffee. One of the hardest parts about building these apps is figuring out what information you may need. So, for example, the application I built was designed to be kind of like a coffee sharing application. So what we can do here is we're going to go log in, and I'll show you how the pages look side by side. So when we log in, we're going to go click on Inspect, just so we can get a smaller view it like it would be on a mobile device. And again, you can download the App Guide versus Preview app if you're interested, and it'll allow you to actually preview it on a mobile device. So when you go in here, if you click on Add Coffee, you're going to see a form that is very similar to this one here. So if you want to add some coffee, you would type in company, because you're going to want to know who's actually roasting the coffee, the name of the coffee, a description, where it was purchased. These are just some things I thought users may actually want to know. So you can have all this information stored, but I also added an image URL so people can save the URL, and we'll actually display that image within the application. I have a little disclaimer and then add post. Now, once you've added the post, because this roast section has a drop-down menu, when you click an item, it actually chooses a category to put this information into. So this is a little bit more dynamic than a traditional forum. So if you go to all coffee, you'll see that there are different roasts. So in the medium roast section, there's this one. And so there's the name of the brand, and then the name of the roast, and when the roast was added. And you can change this format to make it more appealing. So if you click on that roast, you'll see you have the details on it. And then you'll see you have a little image here, and the ability to update all the information on that page as well. And that's available for pretty much all of these. So you'll see all the details here, and then you'll see the ability to change and edit this form and update it to update the content. So this is much more robust than the forum we just made. So let's go ahead and jump into kind of making this in action. So first thing is first, we need to have a page where you're going to actually add in the forum post or what exactly is happening. So if users want to share something. So we're going to go up here, and I've started something called Exciting Forum. So basically I just made this page. So super simple. None of these have any logic to them. So these, I just put a paragraph or the header text up here, fill out the form below. I just dragged over the input fields here. The drop-down label is over here in this middle section, and then the button doesn't have any logic assigned to it. So this is where yours is going to stray a little bit from mine, because I don't know what content you're looking to add. So the more you add here, essentially the more you're just going to have set up in your Firebase. So for example, we can click Start Collection, and to name it the same thing, we'll call it Exciting Forum. And then we'll just call it the same thing here. And then we'll put name. Let's say you want to add description. And then maybe you want to add an image URL. Now, one thing I want to note here is you don't need to add a created on date or time. That's automatically generated, and we'll pull that later. So now we're going to need the value. So we'll put name and description just as a placeholder. But for the image URL, let's go ahead and add something in there. So going to Unsplash again, we're going to try to find a nice image. Again, if you're using this, just make sure that you're using it for, you're finding something that's free for commercial use. Feel free to give the artist a shout out if you can. So this one looks cool. So let's copy the image address. We'll go over here and we will paste that in and we will click Save. Now this form will correspond to whatever information you want the users to enter and see. So what we're going to do now is we're going to change gears just a tad, and I'm going to walk you through how I have mine set up just to make this easier for you to kind of digest. So we have this form. Each one of these input fields has a label, a value, which is just a page variable, and then there's no placeholder text, because I added that in the preview value. So what I did was I went to this option and selected variables. I went to page variables and I added a page variable for every single item that could be entered on this page. Then in each item, you click on the item itself, then you'll click on the value, and you're going to basically set it to a page variable to the corresponding page variable for that value, and you'll repeat the process all the way down. Once you get to the bottom, we have to develop the flow for the add post function. So this one again was a little bit tricky. You'll notice the flow information is a little bit trickier than what we've done previously, and that's only because there's more stuff to authenticate. So I'll walk you through what I did, and then you can follow along. So if you'll notice here, this is literally just a bunch of if statements followed by the HTTP request. So if you need to kind of remember how to do that, we are going to click on this button. Then you will go here, and we're going to scroll through, and we're going to drag over an if statement or if condition. And again, for what I did, you're literally just following this process. So this is an example. I'm not going to drag them all over just for time's sake. So we have these if conditions. Then we want to have a dialog because we want all these to be mandatory. So we'll drag a dialog, another one, and another one here. And then we need a, let's just say, I believe we needed that post request. So we're going to go to installed, HTTP request. We'll drop that in here. See if we need anything else. I believe that was pretty much everything. And then you may want a final dialog saying, hey, we actually did it. So we can click Control C and Control V and put that there. And then it's just as you would imagine, you're just connecting the logic to say if this doesn't happen, go here. If it does happen, go here. And you repeat all the way through. Now, if you're wondering how do we work with this when there's a drop-down label, it's very simple. You click on the drop-down, and in Properties, you have the option List. So you don't have to mess with this. You'll just click Custom List, and you click Add Value. So here's the label. So for example, in my case, it was light for light roast, and then the value was light for light roast. And then the next one could be medium for medium roast, and then again, medium for medium roast. So the label's what's displayed, the value is what's stored or sent. And then you click Save. Once you've saved those two options, the selected value is going to be your page variable. So once you've added in a page variable for the roast or whatever that may be, you'll assign it, and whatever the user selects here is that page variable. So we're going to go ahead and click back on our button and work through this logic together. So I'm going to go over to my application since we already have this logic and just show you what I have already put out there. So the first if statement is simply not is empty, so not all caps, open parentheses is underscore empty, all caps, and then open parentheses and then page vars dot name, close parentheses, close parentheses. If you remember, page vars is page variables. You can just select here and double click at any point to add in a page variable instead of typing it out yourself. Then the next thing that happens is a toast message saying please add a name. So if the name is empty, add a name. Otherwise, we're going to go on. And this is the easiest logic flow to make sure everything is filled in. So the next thing is the exact same text. So you can copy it over and just change the page variable to the next item. And then you're going to repeat the process for this one, which is the next item in the page. So what you need to do is for every item that a user is able to enter in here, you're going to make sure that in your post, there's an if statement saying not is empty, and then in parentheses here, whatever that page variable is. And then the toast message is basically going to say, please add whatever that item is. So you'll see I went in order. So you have, or I actually went out of order a little bit, but basically for company, you're going to say not is empty page vars company. Please add a company name. Then you're going to say not is empty name. Please add a name. And then you're going to repeat for every single item on this page. So you're going to end up with a statement that, or the flow length could obviously vary based on what you need. And then when you get to the very last one, so for me that is company, I did it in a little bit of a different order, but you basically decide, okay, so we've made sure that everything is present. Now we get to the tricky part, and that's that HTTP request. So we're going to click on this request here. And you'll see that I made mine a little bit different. So if you want to make your forum similar to what we've already done, then follow the logic and flow there. This is designed to make something with a little bit more complexity. So you'll notice what we can do is you can actually add in this information to post to this location. So we're going to post to documents, and we're going to post with the page variable for roast. So the idea here is when we go to Firebase, so if I were to log into Firebase for this specific account and you navigate to this web page, what you will see is, let's see, so we'll put, I believe it's case sensitive. You'll see that we have this document, and this is the information that's displayed. So the name of the roast, all of the details there. So everything is here. So the idea is the URL is going to change based on what's in that roast. So to put that into perspective, in our Firebase here, you'll see that we have exciting forum. So if we wanted to add that, or if you want to have this information separated out, then in your form, this drop down, for example, because if you have a text box, the downside there is users can misspell things, so you have to pre-select values for them. And you'll put whatever those values are here. And then when you go to post, you'll make sure that you have something set up for each one of those. So here's what this is going to look like to help make this make a little bit more sense to you. We're going to go to Forum 1, which we've already built, and we're going to click on Post on the Wall and look at this logic. So if we scroll over and you look at your HTTP request, you'll see that we have just gone to Forum 1, which is right here. So in the case of the Coffee Canine application, I have a collection for light, light medium, medium, medium dark, and dark for all the different roast possibilities you can have. Now, what we have from here is each one of those corresponds to a specific forum name. So to make this make a little bit more sense, we're going to start a collection, and we'll just call this one light. And then your collection ID will be light, and then this is where you're going to add in the fields that are on your page. So name, we can make this description. The field could be something like, again, this could be the URL. And then we'll just repeat the process over here. And then you'll click Save. So now what is going to happen is we're going to copy this URL because we've already used this and we know that it's working. And we're going to close this, and we'll go back over to the page that we were on, so this exciting forum. And then we're going to add in, so we have to add in those page variables. So here we will go to page variables, get this out of the way. So we'll make this name, and we'll add a variable for description, and we'll add a variable for URL. I'll click save, get rid of that page. And what we're going to do here is we're going to make this one the name. And then the value is going to be the data variable, page variable for name. We'll click save. And then this one, what we'll do is we'll change things up just a tad. Let's make this drop-down label, since we already have values. This is going to be the data variable for description. So the description will be an option list of light or medium, because this is the first two options for coffee roasts. And then the last item here is going to be the image URL. And then the value, data variable, page variable, and we're just going to put URL and save. So now, when we have this flow set up here, the HTTP request is going to be something along the lines of, we'll put the URL, which we copied not too long ago, in a formula, and we're going to paste it in here. And then you'll see that at the end we have /forum1, but that's not what we want. We want slash, and then we're going to do this plus, so space plus space, and then we need to put light, but what if the user puts in medium? So we can put in app variables, or actually this one's going to be a page variable, and then we're going to do the description, which is the one that corresponds to the user selected dropdown. So we're going to click on save. Now, you should have all of these if conditions filled out by now. I'm actually deleting them just because I want to make this a little quicker for the sake of this video. So we're just going to connect this straight to the HTTP request. And then if this is submitted successfully, we'll go to this dialog, which is just going to say submitted. And we're going to save this. So now we need to make sure that we have this form set up on our actual navigation menu to make sure we can access it when we're trying to test. So we'll add an item, and here we will select the page. We'll choose the exciting forum, and then let's go ahead, we'll just change these to random icons just for the sake of making it look a little bit more appealing. We'll just choose something random. Again, this is just designed to be quick to the point. You can customize those as much as you want. And here, we'll minimize everything. Now we're going to go to Launch, Open App Preview Portal. And per the usual, we're going to click on Open and right-click and click on Inspect so that we can see how this looks mobile. And from here, we're going to click on the login option. I believe this is the forum. So please fill out the forum below. So we're going to put name as test. And we're going to make sure in this exciting forum that nothing is here. And we're going to go back over here. And in the drop-down, light is the only one that we've set up so far. And then an image URL. So we'll go back over to Unsplash, which we have already opened. I may have actually, let's see. I think I closed that one out in a previous video, so let's go ahead and right-click, copy image address, switch over here, paste in the image URL, and click on button. You'll see it says submitted. If we go over to light, and you'll see it wasn't submitted here, so now you know, okay, when we copied and pasted, it looks like it probably went to the wrong forum area. So this is one of the downsides when you copy and paste. So we're going to double check and make sure everything is set up correctly as far as where the information is going. So this HTTP request is going to documents/light. But you'll notice we forgot to change get to post. So basically we told AppGyver to get the information, not post it. So we need to go to post, and then we also need to double check and make sure, was this data resource added? So I'm doing this in slightly reverse order because we've already kind of built some of this out, but I do want you to see how the functionality still works. So what we're going to do is we're going to see if we can kind of refresh this page a little bit. Go to test, and the drop-down we'll select light, and then here we'll paste in, I believe this should still be that Unsplash URL. You'll see submitted. So now we go to light, and you'll see that that information, it looks like it's not pulling it through, but there was a post request. So now we have to diagnose this a little bit further. So when we go to the button, you'll notice that our HTTP request doesn't have a body. We haven't told this what to do. So now we're going to get into the advanced information a little bit more. Now this is going to be the tricky part because yours is going to be a lot different than mine. So let's show you what a more complex request is going to look like. So we're going to go here. You don't need a header. We're just going to go to the request body, and you'll see that mine is fairly large. And this is because this is a lot of information to pull over. So to make this a little bit easier to digest, let's go here where we have the HTTP request, and let's pull the URL and look at this together and kind of figure out how we should copy this. So when you paste it, and what we're going to do here is we're just going to do /light and remove the quote and hit enter. And now you see this information displayed here. And you'll notice we typically need what's after the fields. So just to verify kind of how that's set up on this side, you'll see it's an open curly bracket, fields, and then all that data. So let's go ahead and jump over here. So you'll see we have from fields all the way to the last curly bracket. And then we'll jump in here. We don't need to change this link at all. And we are going to scroll down into the request body. We are going to go to output of another node. Actually, apologize, we're going to set this up as a formula. And in this formula, what we're going to do is paste the information that we just copied over. All right, so in here, backspace everything. If you remember, we have to put everything in these brackets, and we will simply paste it in. Now, if you remember from the previous videos, this will basically just send this information as it is. We need to remove every instance of the string value and actually replace it with the page variable. So from here, what we're going to do is you see URL is the value on the Firebase side. String value is what we're sending to it. So we're going to remove the double quote and the information within. We're going to start typing page variable, and we're going to do page variable URL. Then we're going to do the same over here for name, and we're going to do page variable name. And then lastly, for the description, we will do the same thing. Now, if you have more or less, that does not change how this works. If there are 10 values in here, you're going to find where that final comma is, and just copy from that bracket all the way up to fields, and then this is the information pasted into this page here, and then again simply replace the value. So for example, URL in Firebase, it currently has the value URL, but that's not what we want to send. What we want to send is what the user stores as a page variable. So we're repeating that process all the way through. Now once you've done that, you can click on save. And we're going to see what this has done to our post request now, because again, we're creating a little bit more of a dynamic process here. So let's click over here. Hopefully it's refreshed in the background. So let's type test. Again, I've only set up light right now as a URL. And then we may need to grab a new image. So we're going to copy image address, and then we're going to paste it in and click on the button. It says submitted. So let's see what it looks like now. And you'll see this time it worked. So it came through. We have the description is light, the test is the name, and then the URL is what we displayed earlier. So that's really everything that there is to it for creating this. And you'll see if we had another forum here, so if we made medium, when a user follows this exact same process, if they click on medium and they click on the button, it's going to post the same information, but to the collection that says medium. So to recall this information, we're going to choose each individual URL for those collections and display that information specifically. So what does that look like? Well, if we go in the app here, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to launch real quick. We'll open the preview portal. And I kind of want to show you a visual representation because this may not be what you want to do. So we'll right-click, inspect. Once it gets a little bit smaller, we'll type in the login for the test account. And from here, you'll see we have all coffee. So when a user posts a, for example, medium roast, it will be displayed in the medium roasts section, which corresponds to a medium collection in Firebase. And within those collections, each document is a post that a user makes. But now we need to display these posts. So we're going to follow pretty similar steps to what we did earlier. So you have your post set up. So now we are going to jump into actually displaying this information. And for this, I'm going to show it from the perspective of the app I already have built, because I think it'll make it a little bit easier for you to kind of visualize. So when you're clicking on adding coffee, what we will do here is we will simply click save on this. And we're going to go over here and we can choose a different page. So if we're looking to view the coffee wall, that's where those roasts are displayed. So you'll have light roasts as a repeating value, light medium. So this is where it's going to get a little tricky for you again, because it depends on how you want this displayed. So in your app, you have this page. Someone just submitted the form with details, and the drop-down label decided which forum it goes to. So you could, in theory, create a new page, and that new page, we could call it something like what I have here, so coffee wall. You could make it exciting forum wall. And what we'll do is I'm going to walk you through the data that I have, or the information that I have now, because we've kind of bridged into the app that I've already created. So you're going to create a page, and then on that page is where you're going to start displaying the information. And you're going to use a technique that we did earlier with these repeating values. So in the beginning on the page, you have your posts, and then you have a little description. And then I put a divider so that it's a little easier to differentiate between everything. Now let's check out the variables. So the page variables, I just have description and name. Then there's really nothing here as far as page parameters, so we're just kind of displaying. So what we're going to do here is we're going to check out the tree. You'll see I labeled everything to make it a lot easier to kind of digest. But if you click on light, it'll highlight the item over here. So we're going to look at this container. So this is the scroll view, and then this is the container. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to create a scroll view, and in that scroll view, just like we did previously, you're going to add a container. So you simply drag over a scroll view like this. You'll then drag a container and drop it inside. And then you're going to drag over a couple items within that container. So I have a paragraph, a paragraph, a paragraph, and a divider. So once you've added those in, So this is exactly like we did in the previous video where we created the forum. You're just going to drag in the container and those paragraphs, and then on that container, you're going to decide what it repeats with. So for this, we're going to have to add in data resources for everything we've already done. So we're going to go to data, and you'll see I have quite a few resources now. So you need to add a resource for every single basically like collection that you've added in Firebase. So you'll notice here I have light, light medium, medium, medium dark, and then dark up here. So just like we did before, we'll start off with light, and you would insert your information. Now, from your Firebase account, you'll remember the way that this is set up is we went to the docs, we went through the authentication page, and then we basically added in whatever that page is. So it started off with this resource here. So https://firestore.googleapis.com/v1. And the resource ID was called light. The collection, this is where you have your relative path, which is what's already been typed in. And then it's just /projects/your name, which is the name of the project. So let's look at ours again just to make this make a little bit more sense. We're going to go back to forums, actually forum 1. This is the same exact way that this is set up here. So when you're adding a new data resource, you're just adding the URL to that information. So if you go to forum 1 and you see this URL here, this is the exact same information that we're putting in. So you're basically going to copy this, and then you could go to your exciting forum, and then when we go to data, and then you add a data resource, REST API direct integration, we could call it light or whatever your first option is. You could type in a description, paste in your resource URL, and we're going to cut off this part right here. We're going to go to get, and we're going to paste in the rest, except right here is where we're going to type in light. And then what you're going to do is the path is going to be documents, as it was before. When you go to test and run test, you're going to see that we actually have multiple documents here. If you've got to this stage and you see this, do not create a schema like you have done previously. This is going to make things look a lot different. When you're creating the schema, need to make sure that there's only one option. So when we did the testing, we added a couple. So what we need to do is we need to delete document over here. And then we need to delete another document just to make sure there's only one. So we have this set up. So now we're going to jump in and we're going to run the test again. And now we only have the one document. We'll set the schema from the response and click Save. So this is the process that you're going to repeat for every single document or collection that you've added. So whether yours is light, medium, dark for coffee, yours could be options for video games, maybe for Xbox, for PlayStation. If you're doing it for food, you could do it for different types of food. But each collection, these are the items that you had in that drop-down menu previously. So now that we've added this data resource, we can essentially go to that page that we had. So this is where you're basically going to say, okay, how is this going to be displayed? So this is where you're going to go into whatever your new page is going to be. So you'll see we have our forums, exciting forum, and then we have this empty page. If you want to display your information on this empty page, then you're going to do exactly what we did previously. So from the perspective of the application I've built out, for the light roasts, I have this repeating resource here. So what I did is, like we're going back to this, I clicked on the container. So if you remember what I was doing previously, added in a scroll view, I added in a giant container, and within the container, I just added in paragraph 2, 3, 4, and a divider. So when you click on your container and click repeat with, now when we go to repeat with, so yours, you'll just click here and go to data and variables, you'll see that you have the light variable that we just added. I have more because I went through that process. Again, all you need to do, go to Data and add a new resource and then paste in that information. So you're just going to go to Resources, add a resource, REST API, and do exactly what we did. And if you need a reference, just click one of your previous data resources. You can copy this URL and then copy the path and then just change the piece at the end that has the new resource name. And then you'll click Run Test, Set Schema, and then once you've done that, it'll allow you to repeat with and choose a new one. So what I did is I added a light roast paragraph. I have a giant scroll view. The container repeats with light. And then within the container, the first paragraph, you click on Content, Data Items, and Repeat. And this is all exactly like it was in the forums previously. And then we'll select the value that I want repeated from those different options. So whether you want it to be your URL or any of the values, you choose the string value under the corresponding item that you want displayed. And when you do that, like you have here, you'll see company, name. Well, what about this date here? So for this, when you go to Data Items and Repeat, this actually gives you the ability to choose all the way down here. You have updated time, and up here you have create time. So if you click on create time, it actually gives you the ability to see the time that this was created. So that's the coolest thing about this, is that is actually created by default. So you can choose updated or create time to display here. But this is not super appealing for people who may not necessarily understand how this format is laid out. So here's where we in AppGyver, once you've selected the create time, you can choose this again, and we'll go back to binding type and choose formula. The cool thing about formulas is it automatically adds in the formula for whatever you've already selected. So you'll see this is auto-populated. So what we can do here is over here on the side, you'll see tons of different options. So if we put time in all caps, you'll see that there's a couple of different options. So you have all of these options down here. What's usually a little easier is if we put in format in all caps. So we have a couple of different functions to choose from. So we could do format, date, time, local, and you can scroll over and kind of see what this looks like. So you're looking for this down here. This is something that I think people would understand. So all we need is under the examples, we're just highlighting that information. And we can delete the text that says format. And we're going to paste it in front of repeated current time. And then you'll see here, it's asking this first part, what are you wanting to format? The second part is how. So I want to format this repeated current time. And again, if you put it in the double quotes, it's going to treat it as a string value, not the value on the page. So we'll paste this in. And then we want it to be day, month, year, but I don't think people need to know seconds, so we'll remove that. And we'll just click Save. And you'll see now we have the new preview value. So we have this set up. And if you want, when we reference this later, you can just copy this into a clipboard or into a Word document. But we're just going to click Save. And now we have a much more legible format here. So that's been set up. So we have the information displayed. And if you want to create something similar to what I already have, for example, if this is video games, this can be Xbox. This will be your Xbox forum from Firebase. And you're going to repeat everything we just did for this next section. And you just do this for as many sections as you have. So again, you'll put a header. You'll add in a scroll view. Inside that scroll view will be the container. Inside the container will be the paragraphs or however you want to display the information. The container will repeat with your data variable. And the paragraph will then have the content that is the repeated value that you want it to be. And then this is pretty much all set. Now, the last thing we'll cover in the next video to kind of make this even potentially more impressive is we want to add in the functionality to basically be able to update. So at this point, you've allowed users to post, which is great, but what about actually updating or viewing that info? So what you're going to do, if you remember, for your homework before the next episode, is basically going to be linking these pages like we did in the previous video setting up our forum. Now, if you remember to do that, all you need to do is go create a page for each individual item. So we'll jump into our app now. And what we did was we had a forum 1 item. So for this, you're going to have a page for each individual category. So if it's Xbox and PlayStation, you'll have Xbox page item, PlayStation page item. On that page, you'll have all the data you want to display set as page variables. So basically what you're going to do is you'll drag over content for everything that you want to have displayed. So paragraphs, you can bring over whatever you want them to be. You're going to go to variables, page parameters, and add in a parameter for each individual option. So a parameter for me, I just have description, name, poster. You're going to add the parameters for whatever you want. And then you're going to click on the item, and the content is going to be a data variable, page parameter, whatever the item is that it corresponds to. So if you want yours to show a name up top, a description, and then let's just say a poster, you'll make this one the name. This one will be in this case, it would be the poster or the description, but these are each going to correspond to the page parameter that is the data you want to display. Once you've set that up, you're going to go back to your repeating values here, and you're going to click on the item. You'll click on the logic. You're going to add open page. You can skip this one. This will be covered in the next video. But what you want to do is make sure that this is set to open the page that corresponds to your item. So the page could be your PlayStation or Xbox item, could be your food item. But the idea is each one of these are the page variables that we just created. So this is telling the app when I click on this button, open the page I just made, and display the information here. So this is the page parameter, this is the next one, and this is the next one. So in our previous description, it was just name, description, date, or name, description, poster. So you would just have those three, and you'll fill those out. And then when you click on it, it'll open that page and display that information. The reason I have this here is we're going to add update functionality. So when you jump into your application, if you want to have the ability to click on something and actually see the content and then update it, we'll cover that in the next video. If any of this is confusing, I know I kind of sped up near the end, check out the forum video again. The logic is the exact same. The idea is you have your page, you set it up to where you have a button that posts the information, and then all you need from there is a new page that has a link. And when you click that link, that's going to be within your data items in repeat. It opens up a separate page, which is just your detailed view. So again, that's the easiest way to kind of explain things. This is the way the page is set up. Data items in repeat. When you click one of the items, it corresponds to that data variable, or the container corresponds to the data variable. When you select it, it opens that page and then shows everything. And again, the forum video previously in this series where I'm actually displaying information, that walks through all the logic you're going to need for this. If you have any questions, drop them in the comment box below. In the next video, we're going to cover that update functionality, and then we'll pretty much be closing out the application. I'll see you all there.